and welcome to my channel. Bonsoir et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Muriel, and this evening I would like to talk about Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. I reread this novel at the beginning of this year. It was a reread as I'd already read this about 10 plus years ago when I was 15. If you'd like more context about why I chose to read this book when I was 15, you can check out my 27 years of reading video. Lady Chatterley's Lover is considered a classic of early modern English literature. It tells the story of Constance Chatterley's love affair with the gamekeeper of her husband's estate, Oliver Mellors. The husband, named Clifford, is handicapped. He's in a wheelchair because he was injured during the First World War. And it's, well, about Constance's sexual awakening, her budding relationship with Oliver Mellors, and the story is told in third-person point of view, though it mostly sticks with Constance, but you do have a couple of chapters that follow the gamekeeper's perspective. Keep in mind that this, so like I said, takes place after the First World War and before the Second, and it touches upon subjects such as growing industrialization, alienation of people from the growing advance of mechanization, the trauma of the First World War, and things like that, but I'll go into a bit more detail when I talk about the themes. One thing I will give credit to D.H. Lawrence for is his writing. This is quite beautifully written overall, I think. There are beautiful descriptions of the English countryside, of flower species, tree species. You can clearly tell he had a really great love of nature and of the outdoors. And this is, of course, linked to his, well, themes of the organic, the natural versus the artificial, the industrial. So that was quite enjoyable. The story is linear. Pretty straightforward, really. And an interesting thing also about this is that, so the second main character, Oliver Mellors, well, he's from working class England, from the Midlands, and so there's quite a bit of use of local dialect. In fact, there's a lexicon provided at the end of the book, and I did have to refer to it quite a few times because some of the shortenings, I think you could call them, and local dialect words were a bit difficult to understand. And then there's also this, nowadays it wouldn't be so controversial, but at the time, well, there's a few uses of the fuck word and of the cunt word, though they're not used as slurs, they're used as just alternatives for to have sex or for the vagina, the vulva. He wanted to rehabilitate those words and use them in a beautified way. And I don't know if you're aware of this, a little anecdote. This book, because of those words and because of the sexual content, because there's quite a bit of it, there's quite a bit of erotic text in this novel, well, I mean, it was banned for quite a few years under the Licentious Text Act or Pornography Act of Great Britain. I can't remember the specifics, you can look it up. So this was a banned book for a few years, and then, people told censure to sod off, and it was rehabilitated, and it became a classic of modern English literature. Story arc-wise, or story type-wise, so like I said, it's basically a love story, with the added specific characterization that it's a love story between different social classes. This is ironically maybe less relevant today, or perhaps it's becoming more relevant again with, the problems we have in society with socio-economic inequalities, but I'm not going to get into it. So Constance obviously comes from the upper class and, well, marries into the noble class because Clifford is, I don't remember what his title was, but he's some kind of lord, basically. And like I said, Oliver Mellors is a working class man, though he got into the military and climbed some of the echelons in there, and he's actually fairly educated, but I'll get back to that. It's also the story of an affair, like I said, so there's a bit of a love triangle going on with Constance and Oliver Mellors, and then her husband Clifford, whom she does have some affection for, though I think that kind of goes away as time goes on. And then it's a story about, I guess, personal growth and sexual growth, more importantly, especially for Constance. It's a story of her sexual awakening and her sexual liberation. I guess I'll get back to that also. And yeah, that's about it, I think. So character-wise, we have Constance Chatterley. What can you say about Constance Chatterley, really? I guess she studied art or something. She went to an arts college for women with her sister. I'm not really sure about that, can't really remember. She likes pretty things. She does have an interest, actually, yeah, for artists, playwrights, writers, so she has an artistic sensibility, you could say. She seeks harmony. Overall, I mean, you can't really place her because I think she herself doesn't really know who she is and what she wants out of life. She marries Clifford because that's the thing to do. It's an advantageous marriage. She's marrying into the nobility, though she herself comes from money, basically. She has a sister, and the sister is unmarried. There's a suggestion that she might be a lesbian, though it's said in a pretty derogatory, critical way, so I remain skeptical of that. And yeah, she's very febrile, would be a way to put it. I guess if this book had been written a bit earlier, they would have qualified her as having hysteria or something, because she goes to the doctor at some point because she's depressed, and the doctor freaks out. She says, you need more vitality or you'll develop cancer, and you need fresh air, and you need to be stimulated. Because she's sexually frustrated, basically. She's trapped in a loveless marriage and a sexless marriage because Clifford is handicapped, though I mean, it's not his fault, but yeah, not much sex going on there. Personally, I didn't feel much sympathy for her overall. I didn't identify with her much. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Then you have Oliver Mellors. So he comes from the working class. Now, in the Midlands, that basically meant mining. Coal mining, pretty grim, rough stuff. But he actually does get some education when he's young, and then he gets into the army because there is a sensibility about him, an emotional sensitivity to how things are going awry because men are being alienated from the world and nature because of industrialization and mechanization. And then, so he enrolls in the army, he goes to India, and at some point you find yourself in his cottage, and he actually has a book on astrophysics or atomic physics. So he's fairly intelligent and he's curious and educated. So not the stereotypical working class man. It's not like a book I read in school about the coal miners in France in the 19th century. It's not that at all. But he is a bit rough. Though I think that's kind of a defense mechanism. He doesn't want to enter what he sees as the hypocritical upper class society either. So he puts on this veneer of roughness and brutality, and he has this weird thing where he switches between regular English and then the Midland vernacular, and that really pisses Constance off. She says, why do you talk like that? You're better than that in a way. And I think that hurts his pride because he wants to be proud or at least not be ashamed of his background, his beginnings. So there is this conflict in him. I found him to be a more interesting character actually, and ironically I guess I identified with him slightly more because I could relate to his alienation from modern society, his desire to isolate himself in nature. But then, okay, to be fair, he has some questionable ideas about men and women, but that reflects the ideas of D.H. Lawrence, and I'll get back to that. So at times I was like, oh dude, you're really annoying me right now. And you can sense he cares for Constance, but he also, you know, he's the stoic, strong man, he can't show his emotions. So there's all of that going on, but it made for an interesting character overall, I think. And then you have Clifford. Again, not that much to say about him. The poor guy, so, goes through World War I, is handicapped. He loses the use of his lower legs, though there is a suggestion that some of the function can come back. I mean, he's, again, pretty pretentious, pretty entitled, as you would expect from a, you know, your typical lord. Has these ideas about capitalism and respectable society and keeping the socio-economic classes in their proper place because he takes charge of the mines that go with his estate that he's inherited. So he really tries to get into the mining business. And he's pretty cynical, which, to be fair, could be a result of, I guess, shell shock, or what we would today call PTSD. There's a lot of resentment going on, but again, that's kind of justified by the fact he's in a wheelchair. I mean, it touches upon his own masculinity and his pride. But I mean, overall, the relationship he has with Constance isn't that good. He has also classical ideas about men and women's proper places in life and society, so that clashes with her need to be sexually liberated and to find happiness in whatever way she can find it. There's something also pretty, I guess, pathetic about him, pretty sad overall. You feel pity for Clifford. It's interesting because I've read that Clifford is kind of a projection of D.H. Lawrence into the novel, because D.H. Lawrence had, tuberculosis or something? He had a chronic condition, I believe, and that affected him and handicapped him. So apparently Clifford is supposed to be kind of a self-insertion of the author in there. And finally, a minor character, but she does have purpose, is Ivy Bolton. So she's a maid slash servant slash, she's like not a handyman, but a handy woman. So she cleans, she prepares meals, she shaves Clifford, she keeps him company, plays chess with him, I think. She gets hired by Constance and Clifford because Rugby Hall is ginormous and Constance doesn't have children, so the house feels pretty empty, so I guess they want people there to help with the upkeep also. And she's very chatty, she's a very motherly figure, she likes to gossip about the goings-on in the village, and she knows everything about everyone, she's pretty nosy, but overall she's a pretty positive character, I think. She's very sympathetic towards Constance's slight depression and sadness and listlessness in her loveless marriage. And she then takes care of Clifford, keeps him company. Like I said, they play board games. She talks to him. She just chatters on all the time. And then she even helps him with the running of the mines by, putting papers away or stuff like that. And of course she knows about Oliver Mellors and she guesses at the love affair, and she's not actually against it because she knows him and she knows that overall he's a good man. So she was a nice little addition in there. It made the story a bit brighter, I think, in a way. Now, onto the themes. First, I've already mentioned this now a couple times. You have this big overarching conflict between what I would say is nature, the organic, the good natural life, and the menacing advance of industrialization, mechanization. I think D.H. Lawrence really had this fear, you could even say, of, human beings being alienated from their environment and from each other because of technology, machines. He refers to machinery at the mines, and even the mines themselves, and the dust and the grey grime that covers the miners. It's something really oppressive and menacing. To be fair, I kind of agree with that. Coal mining still is, I would assume, but certainly was in the 19th century, absolutely horrendous. Also, as an environmentalist or environmentally aligned person, I kind of agree that, we need to strike a balance between industrialization, technology, and living harmoniously with nature. But this was really important to him. You could really, really feel it in the novel. The way he describes the English countryside, there's this nostalgia, there's almost a melancholy note in the way he describes the flowers, the trees. Like it's something he thought was extremely precious and that I guess he feared was going to disappear at some point, and he's not entirely wrong, sadly. I guess you could also say there's a theme of what does war do to the human psyche? I wouldn't say it's as present, but you can kind of see it through, obviously, the character of Clifford, who is literally physically, scarred from the First World War because he's lost the use of his legs. Also through Oliver Mellors, because like I said, he was in the army, he was in India, and the British in India didn't exactly do great things. Let's not get into it. So he's also kind of scarred by that. But even, the concept of war is linked to the concept of technology and mechanization as well, because obviously, technology played a big part in, conflict, wars. Wars are ironically great drivers of technological advancements, sadly. Also, an interesting note, they actually talk about feeling that there will be a Second World War. There's like a premonition that it's coming, and they were right, sadly. So there's this, oppressive feeling that the world, as they know it, as they knew it, is just going away. And then now we come to the more controversial stuff, though this is also linked to this great narrative of we should seek the organic life, the natural life, and not embrace technology, wholesale without critiquing it. There's this interest for the place of sex within all of this. D.H. Lawrence certainly had a thing for sex and sexual relations between men and women specifically. I think he saw sex as a potentially healing tool. There's almost something a bit tantric about it, I guess. That men and women could truly find the most genuine relation with one another through the physical act of sex. That's the way I understood it, basically. And that sex was not something dirty or shameful as the prevailing opinion asserted, or at least, the religious opinion, the common opinion inherited from Victorian era England, that it was something beautiful, healthy, in tune with the cycles of nature, of the earth, again, in line with this thinking that we should seek the organic life. So that's actually overall a pretty positive message, I think. I like that. And I still liked it this time around when I read it at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I'm all for that. It's pretty sex positive, as we would call it today. But then it also comes with an interrogation of the place of men and women within that framework of sex is awesome, it's beautiful, it's a great way to connect with one another, between men and women, mind you. Let's be clear about this. Okay, so this is an ongoing debate. Was D.H. Lawrence sexist? Look, I'm certainly not an authority on the subject, and it's all a matter of personal opinion. I don't think D.H. Lawrence was misogynistic. I don't think he hated women. I do think he was a bit sexist, though. But perhaps not sexist in a malevolent way, as in women should stay in the kitchen and make me a damn sandwich. But, women were supposed to enjoy sex and be sexual in a specific way, with men in a specific way. It doesn't really ask women what they think sex should be for them, what shape it should take, what they desire, what they want out of their relationships with men or women. So yeah, no, I don't think it's... I don't know how to put it, extolling the virtues of sexual liberation for women. I mean, it is in a way, but within a framework that benefits men, though. Not just female sexual liberation for the sake of females. It's kind of for the sake of men and relationship with men. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the worst there is, sure. It's not ragingly misogynistic, it's not violent, but it's ultimately self-serving, It's not female-centered, it's meant for men. At least that's the way I perceive it, because the clitoris is nowhere in sight in this novel. And the most earth-shattering orgasm our dear Constance has is through anal sex. Now, to each their own. There are plenty of people, plenty of women who enjoy that, and good for them. But look at any statistic on sex for women, and I'm pretty sure most of them will tell you that no, the majority of women haven't had their most earth-shattering orgasm through anal sex, without any kind of clitoral stimulation. So that was a bit weird. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of PIV, and then anal sex, and earth-shattering orgasms, but again, did the guy actually talk to women? I don't know, his female acquaintances, his wife, his female friends, about their sexual experiences? Remains open to debate, I suppose, but no, it's not that positive for women sexually. I can't put it any other way. But no, it's not that great. It's alright. It was probably groundbreaking for the time, and it's better than nothing in a way, sure, but I think we've come a long way since then, or at least I hope so, and it's not so relevant today in any case. So the sad fact of the matter is, I didn't enjoy reading this at the beginning of the year overall. This is not a rant review. I don't think this is a bad book, but it's a bit dated, to be honest. I don't think this is inevitable with older works of literature, but in this case, I don't think it has aged that well. I loved this when I was 15, and again, I go into the reasons why sort of in another video, and it was very important to me at the time, and I had this idea that this was a fundamental book to my reading history for a very long time, until I reread it this year, and I was like, oh, well, no, that's not the case anymore. Fancy that. But I'm happy I reread it so that I could have an actualized opinion of this novel. It's up to date. I'm still keeping this copy because, like I said, it has an important place in my reading history, but I don't think it's that great. I gave it a pretty poor rating on Goodreads. For the sake of having an education in English literature, sure, give it a go. If it's just for the love story or the erotic elements, there's better out there. You can find better, honestly. So, again, if you want to perfect your education in the wonderful subject of English literature, give this a go, but otherwise, there's only so much time and there's so many books to read, you know what I mean? That being said, it's still quite a beautifully written novel, and there are important, still relevant themes to it as well, though they're probably better developed in other works today. So I wrote quite a few quotes down from it, and I will now read them. Ours is essentially a tragic age, so we refuse to take it tragically. The cataclysm has happened. We are among the ruins. We start to build up new little habitats to have new little hopes. It is rather hard work. There is now no smooth road into the future, but we go round or scramble over the obstacles. We've got to live, no matter how many skies have fallen. And a woman had to yield. A man was like a child with his appetites. A woman had to yield him what he wanted, or like a child he would probably turn nasty and flounce away and spoil what was a very pleasant connection. But a woman could yield to a man without yielding her inner free self. And dimly she realized one of the great laws of the human soul, that when the emotional soul receives a wounding shock which does not kill the body, the soul seems to recover as the body recovers. But this is only appearance. It is really only the mechanism of reassumed habit. Slowly the wound to the soul begins to make itself felt, like a bruise which only slowly deepens its terrible ache till it fills all the psyche. From the old wood came an ancient melancholy, somehow soothing to her, better than the harsh insentience of the outer world. She liked the inwardness of the remnant of forest, the unspeaking reticence of the old trees. They seemed a very power of silence, and yet a vital presence. Civilized society is insane. Money and so-called love are its two great manias. Money a long way first. In the dimness of it all, trees glisten naked and dark, as if they had unclothed themselves, and the green things on earth seemed to burn with greenness. There awoke in her new strange thrills rippling inside her, rippling, like a flapping overlapping of soft planes, soft as feathers, running to points of brilliance, exquisite, and melting her all molten inside. It was like bells, rippling up and up to a culmination. Because when I feel the human world is doomed, has doomed itself by its own beastly minginess, then I feel the colonies aren't far enough. The moon wouldn't be far enough, because even there you could look back and see the earth, dirty, beastly, unsavory among all the stars, made foul by men. It was sensuality sharp and searing as fire, burning the soul to tinder. I tell you, it's invisible. I don't believe in the world, nor in money, nor in advancement, nor in the future of our civilization. If there's got to be a future for humanity, there'll have to be a very big change from what now is. And that was my review of Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. I hope you enjoyed it, found it interesting. Have you read this novel? Please tell me your thoughts about it down in the comments. And, well, I hope you all have a lovely day or evening. I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.